and was returning to God, he rose from supper and took off his outer garments. He took a towel and tied it around his waist into a basin. And Jesus said to him, "Bathe has no need except to have his feet washed, for he is clean all over. So you are clean, but not all." For he knew who would betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." So when he
I still have the card that my spiritual director, Father John Gerlach, gave me the night before my ordination as a deacon. In it, he writes, "Tomorrow is your first ordination. God willing, there will be a second one as a priest. Please God, there will not be a third as a bishop. But whatever happens, tomorrow is the most important because everything else that follows depends on this. If you want to learn to lead God's people, then you need to learn first to wait at table and how to wash their feet." Now, I've done my share of food service over the years. I know how to wait on tables both rich and poor, in truck stops and in tea rooms, and I don't really mind it. It's true that sometimes the wait staff, those of us that have done it, know what this is like, that you can become kind of invisible to the paying customers. But unless you don't know how to stack plates properly or carry glasses, it's not usually gross. I'd have to clean my own plates anyway. Why wouldn't I clean somebody else's? But feet wanted to pass on to somebody else, the job nobody wanted to do. So when Jesus interrupts the dinner party and begins to do what the lowest person in the house is supposed to be doing, when he literally begins child's play and then tells his disciples they need to do the same, he's not simply saying, make sure you're attentive to each other's needs, or have a generic sense of service and fellowship about yourself and other people. No, instead, but this revolution is like no other. It can co-ideology drives it. Rather, a person. The person of the Lord Jesus. For Jesus shows us in the washing of the feet the deepest, truest meaning of the Eucharist that he's just celebrated for the first time. At every Mass, we kneel in adoration of the Lord in the Blessed Sacrament, and rightly so. The priest, the moment he said the words, genuflex in adoration Mass, it was the Lord himself who knelt. It was the maker of the universe who got down on his hands and knees to wash the feet of his creatures. The maker of all things humiliated himself in order to elevate his own creation. Ora, de hecho, mi parte del servicio de alimentos a lo largo de muchos años, sé servir mesas en paradas de camiones y salones de té y cómo servir desde las mesas más elegantes y muy modestas. Y realmente no me importa. Es cierto, son un poco invisibles para los invitados, huéspedes, perdón. Pero de todos modos estaría limpiando mi propio plato, así que ¿por qué no el de otra persona? Pero los pies son asquerosos, universalmente asquerosos. Y cuando la gente no usaba zapatos habitualmente, o los zapatos que usaban eran sandalias, y las alcantarillas estaban básicamente abiertas, los pies de todos eran igualmente asquerosos. La persona más menor en la casa era responsable del lavamiento de los pies de los guests. Y normalmente era un esclavo o un sirviente, pero salvo eso era el niño más pequeño con edad y suficiente para realizar la tarea. Era el trabajo que todos siempre querían evitar y estaban felices de pasarlo a su hermano menor una vez que tuvieran edad suficiente. Entonces, cuando Jesús interrumpe esta cena y comienza a hacer lo que debería estar haciendo la persona más menor de la casa, cuando literalmente comienza a hacer child's play y luego les dice a sus discípulos, ¿cómo debería ser? Como esto. El mayor hacerse el menor. El presidente, quien quiera que sea, debería estar de rodillas lavando los pies el Congreso, o mayor a los ciudadanos. Y el juez debería lavar los pies no solo a la secretaría del tribunal y a los abogados, sino también a las presuntas víctimas y a los acusados. Pero la entrenadora debería estar al servicio de sus jugadores, el director de coro y sus músicos, Caitlin Clark y otros atléticos. Y la visión del mundo de Jesús está totalmente patas arriba. Pero eso es el llamado y la revolución del Jueves Santo. Pero esta revolución no se parece a ninguna otra. No puede reclamar ningún reino como propio aparte del reino de Dios, y ninguna ideología lo impulsa, sino una persona. La persona de Jesús. Porque Jesús nos muestra en el lavatorio de pies el significado más profundo, verdadero de la Santa Eucarística, que acaba de celebrar por nosotros. En cada misa nos arrodillamos en adoración ante la presencia de Cristo en el Santísimo Sacramento. Pero en la primera misa fue Dios mismo quien se arrodilló para lavar los pies de sus discípulos. El Creador se inclinó para servir a sus criaturas. El hacedor de todas las cosas se humilló para elevar lo que había hecho. God shows us charity incarnate, love with the skin on. He has lived as love among us in the flesh, but the nature of human flesh is that it passes away. He found a way to make love endure. In the Holy Eucharist, whether it's here at Mass, received in Holy Communion, or as we do tonight, and as we do so often here at Christ the King in adoration, we meet love himself. We can look him in the eye, stare him in the face, and we get to know love's own personality. And as we do, we're faced with a challenge. Will I let him wash my feet? Now, Peter, he doesn't want his feet washed. You will never wash my feet. But Jesus, he insists, unless I wash you, you will have no inheritance with me. Now he's caught. He knows Jesus, and he wants more than anything else in the world to be with Jesus. But this makes him very uncomfortable. Then not only my feet, he says, but my hands and my head as well. This would be what we think of today as like a pit bath, right? It's the quickie clean and make sure you don't smell so you don't offend somebody else, so you're presentable. But Jesus is clearly not concerned with being presentable. He's standing there in his undershirt doing the work that the slaves are supposed to. He's literally stripped down to his underwear, and he's done so precisely as the master of the universe. So what exactly is Peter's problem? I think that Peter, like most of us, would prefer things stayed the way they were. I don't love having someone in charge of me who makes me feel that all the time, but at least then I know where I stand. And while I can see the benefit of servant leadership as an idea, it's good to give talks about, maybe sell books over or something, it's really messy. And it's complicated. And it makes me often very, very uncomfortable. The one having their feet washed is vulnerable to the foot washer in a way like no other. Having your body handled by somebody else and your feet, of all things, and only your feet, it's weird. It's uncomfortable. And yet the foot washer is even more vulnerable because he's knelt down in front of the other guy, ready to take a foot to the face. I kind of get why Peter doesn't like it. En la Santa Eucarística, Dios nos muestra la caridad encarnada. Él ha vivido entre nosotros como amor en carne, pero la naturaleza de la carne humana es que pasa. Encontró la manera de hacer que el amor perdure. Entonces, en la Santa Eucarística, ya sea aquí en la misa recibida en la Santa Comunión, o adorada como lo hacemos esta noche y como lo hacemos aquí en Cristo Rey todo el tiempo, nos encontramos con el amor mismo. Podemos mirarlo a la cara y nos enfrentamos a un desafío. Permitiré que Él me lave los pies. Pedro no quiere que se laven los pies. Nunca me lavarás los pies. Pero Jesús insiste, sí, no te lavo. No te tendrás parte conmigo. Ahora está atrapado. Él conoce a Jesús. Quiere estar con Jesús más que cualquier otra cosa en todo el mundo. Pero eso lo hace sentir muy incómodo. Entonces, no